Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're looking at something that literally happens to every single one of us. But honestly, it remains a total mystery to most. I want you to think of your brain like a ridiculously advanced biological computer. Every single night, it has to run this incredibly specific shutdown sequence, and then every morning, it has to boot right back up. But just like any complex operating system, sometimes it glitches out. These glitches can be bizarre, confusing, and sometimes flat out terrifying. But as we'll see today, they're almost always just completely harmless biological quirks. Okay, let's dive into this with a feeling I guarantee most of you know. You're drifting off, it's perfectly quiet, and then out of literally nowhere, your entire body violently slams awake like you just missed a step on a staircase. We call this a hypnic jerk, and it happens to around 70% of us. So what's going on here? Well, as you fall asleep, your muscles naturally start to relax. But your brain, which is also powering down, kind of misreads that sudden loss of muscle tone. It thinks, oh no, we're falling. So it fires this massive jolt of electricity through your body to catch you. It's a total emergency response that you absolutely do not need. Researchers actually think this is an evolutionary leftover from our ancestors who literally slept up in trees, where losing muscle tension actually meant you were going to fall out. So yeah, your bed is safely on the ground, but your brain just didn't get the memo. To make sense of all this, we're going to track our brain's operating system chronologically through 4 phases tonight. First, powering down. Second, deep sleep errors. Third, REM reality warps. And finally, booting up and sleep debt. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, powering down. This is the initial shutdown sequence. So, as we start this nightly journey, the conscious mind begins its power down sequence, and honestly, it can get pretty messy. Look at this number, 70%. That's how many of us experience hypnagogic hallucinations at some point. It's crazy. You're not quite asleep yet, but you start seeing or hearing things. Usually it's visual, right? Flashes of light, random faces, landscapes, maybe some weird geometric patterns behind your closed eyes, or maybe you hear someone call your name. So why does this happen? Well, the biological computer just doesn't switch cleanly between states. Your brain starts firing up the neural activity for dreaming, but your conscious mind is still hanging on. The signals just bleed through. You're awake enough to experience them, but not quite awake enough to brush them off as a dream. And because it happens right on the absolute edge of sleep, people constantly misremember these harmless little glitches as things that actually happened. Now, here's a glitch that sounds absolutely terrifying, but is, I promise, completely safe. Exploding head syndrome. About 10% of people get this. You're almost asleep, and suddenly, bam, an enormous bang goes off entirely inside your head. It's not a headache, it feels like a loud crash, a gunshot, or a cymbal smash, and it jolts you awake, heart just pounding. The leading theory here is that it's just a misfire during your sensory shutdown. Instead of your senses fading out nicely and gradually, your auditory neurons just discharge all at once. There's no physical event, no real bang, and zero damage happening. It's literally just a bunch of neurons firing simultaneously and your auditory cortex doing its job by interpreting those signals as one massive deafening sound. Let's quickly compare these pre-sleep errors to what happens on the flip side. So hypnagogic hallucinations happen as you're falling asleep, right? But hypnopompic hallucinations happen as you're waking up. These hypnopompic glitches happen when you're transitioning out of REM sleep, but your dreaming circuitry basically forgets to shut off before you regain consciousness. The result? Your dream bleeds directly into the real world. You might open your eyes and literally see a giant spider on the wall or a shadowy figure standing right in your room. What makes these so clinically fascinating is that they look and feel 100% real. Unlike a regular dream, these visions are totally indistinguishable from reality in the moment, purely because your brain's reality-checking systems are still lagging and haven't fully booted up yet. Which brings us to Section 2, Deep Sleep System Errors. Okay, we are now entering slow wave sleep. This is the absolute deepest stage of sleep. It is incredibly hard to wake someone up from this, and it's also where the system glitches get highly physical. We group 3 specific things here: confusional arousals, night terrors, and sleepwalking. We call these disorders of arousal. They all share the exact same underlying mechanism. Your brain tries to wake up from deep sleep, gets partway there, and then just gets stuck. The motor system turns on, but consciousness stays totally offline. This is how you get sleepwalkers who can navigate around a dark house, unlock doors, make a sandwich, or, crazily enough, even drive a car, all without a single shred of waking awareness. And just to be clear, they are not acting out dreams. Dreaming happens in a totally different stage. The brain just started executing these purposeful-looking physical movements with absolutely zero conscious awareness behind the wheel.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sharp difference between a nightmare and a night terror. A nightmare is really just a scary dream. You wake up and you remember what frightened you. But a night terror, that is a whole different beast. It happens in deep sleep, not REM. A person having a night terror might suddenly sit up screaming, their heart racing at like 180 beats per minute in a state of complete physiological panic. But here is the crazy part. They aren't actually conscious. You can't comfort them because they are completely unreachable. They can't even process that you're there. The episode usually lasts a few minutes, they go straight back to sleep, and the next morning, they have absolutely zero memory of the whole shebang.
Deep sleep can also get hijacked by physical interruptions. Let's look at nocturnal leg cramps versus myoclonus. Leg cramps are those awful, intensely painful, involuntary muscle seizing, usually right in the calf, that literally force you to stretch the muscle out to make it stop. Myoclonus, on the other hand, is that repeated, rhythmic twitching, maybe in an arm, a leg, or even your whole body. Now, while sleep myoclonus is usually totally harmless, both of these glitches do something pretty insidious. They wreck your sleep architecture. Even if a twitch doesn't fully wake you up, the movement constantly yanks your brain into a much lighter stage of sleep. So you could have dozens of these mini events, remember absolutely none of them, and then wake up feeling completely exhausted because your body essentially kept quietly waking itself up all night long. Moving right along to Section 3, REM, reality warps. We've finally reached REM sleep. This is that highly active period where the brain runs its most vivid, emotionally intense internal virtual reality simulations. Now check this out. 66%. That's the amount of people who will talk in their sleep at some point. Why? Basically, the brain accidentally leaves the microphone on. As it cycles through the sleep stages, these partially active neural networks spit out random verbal fragments, half sentences, maybe a few words, and they deliver them with absolute conviction. And let's just bust a massive myth right now. You cannot extract deep, dark secrets from a sleep talker. No way. The content almost never reflects actual memories or real thoughts. It's practically meaningless. Your brain isn't running some secret conscious monologue. It's literally just a harmless glitch of a hot mic.
REM sleep is also the stage where the brain can really play tricks on us. False awakenings are these incredibly unsettling REM loops where your brain runs a simulation of your bedroom and your morning routine so perfectly that you fully believe you've woken up and started your day. Then, boom, you realize you're still asleep in bed. It's wild. Also, if you deprive yourself of REM sleep, like by pulling an all-nighter or even having a few drinks, which heavily suppresses REM, you're going to get hit with REM rebound. When your brain finally gets the chance to catch up, it aggressively collects that sleep debt by running the REM stage on overdrive. This gives you incredibly bizarre, overwhelming, and intensely emotional dreams. It's just your brain desperately trying to recover the simulation time it lost.
Now, there is one REM glitch you might actually want to trigger. Lucid dreaming. This is the scientifically proven state where you become completely conscious and aware inside your own dream. Researchers literally proved this by having lucid dreamers signal their awareness using specific pre-agreed eye movements, since your eye muscles are one of the very few things that aren't paralyzed during REM. If you want to try and trigger this glitch yourself, there are a few established steps. First is reality testing, just repeatedly checking your environment throughout your waking day. Then there's the wake back to bed method, where you wake up briefly to try and re-enter REM more directly. And finally, the MILD technique, which is basically setting a super strong mental intention to recognize that you're dreaming right as you drift off.
All right, the final stretch, Section 4, booting up and sleep debt.
The night is over, and our biological computer has to somehow boot its operating system back into the waking world. And this brings us to what is easily one of the most notoriously terrifying glitches of all, sleep paralysis. See, during normal REM sleep, a mechanism called remitonia completely paralyzes your muscles so you don't act out your dreams. Makes sense, right? But in sleep paralysis, you wake up, your consciousness comes fully online, but your body just hasn't gotten the signal to unlock yet. You are completely paralyzed. And because you're stuck and vulnerable, your brain's threat detection system goes into absolute panic mode. It decides something must be physically holding you down, so it actively hallucinates a presence to rationalize why you can't move. This is exactly why people across centuries and across totally different cultures report feeling some sort of evil presence in the room. They call it an old hag, an incubus, or a shadow person. It is truly terrifying, but at the end of the day, it's just a localized boot-up error.
And this brilliantly illustrates sleep inertia, the exact reason why waking up is pretty much never an instant process. When your alarm goes off, your brain is still completely swimming in adenosine, which is the chemical that makes you sleepy. Plus, your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles all your rational decision-making, is still offline. Usually, this morning brain fog clears up in about 15 to 30 minutes. But if you get forcefully woken up from deep sleep, that state of severe grogginess can drag on for up to 4 hours. And that's incredibly dangerous in the real world. We've actually documented surgeons who are woken up for emergency procedures or pilots forced to fly during this window, making terrible, sometimes fatal decisions simply because their brains were still technically asleep.
So, the crucial point is that ignoring your brain's need to shut down leads to the absolute most dangerous real-world glitch of them all, microsleeps. Studies show that after just 17 hours of being awake, which honestly is just a regular long day for a lot of us, your brain can just involuntarily shut itself off. For anywhere from 2 to 30 seconds, your consciousness just vanishes. Poof! Your eyes might still be open, you might be sitting perfectly upright, but EEG scans confirm your brain has dropped right into full sleep stage activity. Then you snap back, and you have total amnesia of the lapse. You literally cannot detect your own microsleeps. This exact glitch is responsible for a massive portion of drowsy driving crashes and major industrial accidents. The person behind the wheel genuinely thinks they're awake, but suddenly they're 2 seconds further down the highway with zero memory of the gap.
Which leaves us with one final thought to ponder. We've seen how our biological computer gracefully and, sometimes really clumsily, handles its nightly shutdown and boot up sequences. From the falling sensation of a hypnic jerk all the way to the totally terrifying presence of sleep paralysis. Most of these things are just fascinating, completely harmless quirks of human wiring. But as we just saw with microsleeps and REM rebound, your brain is definitely keeping a strict ledger. So I have to ask you, are your nighttime glitches just harmless biological quirks? Or is your brain quietly collecting a dangerous sleep debt that you are absolutely going to have to pay? Take a really close look at your own sleep health tonight. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, sleep well.